Matthew chapter 24. As we continue to move through that final week, that week, that Passover week leading up to the cross. One thing that you have not heard announced a whole lot, I've been trying to share with it on our midweek video that I do on Facebook, but Good Friday night, we are going to have a service here. I don't even want to call it a service. That Good Friday night at 6 o'clock, it's going to be an interaction that we're all going to experience, okay? So when you come in the doors that night, just go with it. Just go with the flow of how it is. There's not going to be any song service. There's not going to be anybody necessarily speaking, and I don't want to give anything really away with that, but just come in prepared to interact and with the time that we're going to spend together that night. It's not going to be a long period of time. It'll start at 6. We'll probably be done around 6:30, 6:45 at the latest. But again, keep that in mind. Good Friday service, it's going to be different, maybe anything you've ever done, and we're looking forward to that. But it's going to go along with our series that we've been in for the last few weeks. But Matthew chapter 24 today. Now, before we get into Scripture today, I've got to ask something of you. And I want to see a response, all right? How many believe that everything in this book that I'm holding, the Bible, is absolutely 100% true? Everybody? I think pretty much everybody's hands up here. That everything, if your Bible, like mine, has red letters, and red letters represent what Jesus is speaking, how many of y'all believe that everything you read in red this morning is absolutely 100% true? Because if you don't believe that, then you're saying Jesus is a liar. So how many today believe everything that we're going to read in red this morning? Okay? All right. That's very important, because what we're going to discuss today, unfortunately, many pastors and many churches will not go down this road. I have heard preachers say, I have sat in meetings with them, and they will say they will not address some of what we're going to address this morning because they don't fully understand it. And I'm like, how can you understand it? I mean, it's easy. It's all in red. I mean, just take it for what it is. But they don't want to do it because it's not a popular message. They feel like it's not uplifting enough. Well, listen, if you're not a Christian and you're not walking with Jesus, no, it's not really that uplifting. But let me tell you something. For those of us that are following Jesus, this is the most exciting thing we could ever read about. And that's why I get pumped up. And that's why I get pumped up when we have moments like we did this morning, because we have two people. What I said this morning, if you were here this morning, what happened this morning is we're populating heaven. People are giving their life to Christ. What happens from this point on in the history of the world, and prophetically speaking, is an exciting time for us as Christians. We have nothing to fear, nothing to regret. And so we're going to look at some stuff today that is as though we'd be turning on Fox News today and reading headlines. So let's turn to Matthew 24, beginning in verse 1. We're going to go throughout the entire first, several verses here this morning, and first 35 verses, and break it down. Let's have a look today. Because listen, we cannot be silent on what we're reading about today. We can't. We can't. Church, if there's ever a time we've got to sound the warning bell, it's now. And we can't back away. Verse 1, let's pick up here. And Jesus left the temple and was walking away when his disciples came up to him to call his attention to its buildings. First of all, understand something. This in the scheme of the week of what's going on, this would have been probably like Tuesday or Wednesday of that week. When Jesus is leaving the temple at this time, I've read different commentary on this particular verse, and some suggest that when Jesus leaves the temple at this moment, when he's walking away, he will not set foot back in the temple from this point forward. When he walks away, as we've looked the last couple of weeks, the times he's had the face down, and when he turned the tables over and with the Pharisees and the religious leaders and all that was going on that day, he had said his piece, okay? If we were to read earlier in chapter 23, we would have went through the 7 woes and all that went on with that. So when Jesus leaves the temple here, and I have to tend to agree with him, he's walking away. He said what needs to be said, and here we are. He left the temple and was walking away when his disciples came up to him to call his attention to its buildings. Now that's kind of weird. Why would the disciples say, hey, look at these buildings? Well, listen, Jerusalem has changed over the years. The temple itself had taken on a different look. Because from the time Jesus was born, and King Herod was in rule at that time, the temple had been added to. There had been some things that had been added around the temple. And so as they're walking through Jerusalem and they're looking at the temple and they're looking at other things, it's just like this. I went to college in Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee, or just outside Knoxville. So I spent most of my time in college. Well, not most of my time. I got tired of it. But spent a lot of time when I was in college, Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, and all that. We were, 15 minutes away. So anytime anybody wanted to come to visit at school, we ended up going to the mountains and all that. Well, where we stayed at in Sevierville this past week, and I was just thinking about this as we were driving through Pigeon Forge and that area, where we stayed at, that didn't even exist. Matter of fact, most of that area from Sevierville into Pigeon Forge and a lot of those places, they were not there almost going on 40 years ago now. Things change, and we drive through, and I know a couple different times, even since we were there over, from last year, there was something new, and I'd say, I don't remember that being here last year. Things change, and it catches our attention. And the disciples, when there were Jesus and they're leaving, and they're going through Jerusalem, their attention is being caught by the changes in the city at this time. Just like what we would do when we go visit places. In verse 2, do you see all these things? He asked. Truly I tell you, not one stone here will be left on another. Every one will be thrown down. And Jesus, I want you to capture the moment here. We don't understand what's happening here, but Jesus prophetically is saying what's getting ready to happen in 70 years from about this point. He's looking at this beautiful city of Jerusalem. He's looking at this beautiful temple, and he's telling his disciples, this place, it's all going to be desolate. It's going to be in ruins. Remember what it looks like right now, but it's not, because it's not going to look this way for very much longer. Because in 70 AD, the Romans came in and the soldiers came in and laid ruin to Jerusalem. The temple was destroyed. And Jesus is saying to his disciples, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. And we know that is exactly what happened in 70 AD. Now, once again, I'm going to ask a question. Do you believe what Jesus has said? It's easy for us to believe it because we know what happened. We can go back in the history books and we can read about that. We know it was factual, it happened. Jesus prophetically said it was going to happen. It's important. If we believe that, we know what happened, then let's move on. Verse 3. And as Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately. Tell us, they said, when will this happen, and what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? Picture this. They retreat. We talked about that last week. When Jesus, in the evening time, would have retreated, spent time with his Father, spend time with his disciples, and they're here. And after Jesus makes this statement that Jerusalem is going to be in ruin, it's going to be destroyed, this kind of this whole thought process is going on in the desire. Imagine you're with Jesus. He says that, and you're beginning to think about what He just said all day. And you're beginning to question it. I don't fully understand it. So that night, they're there. I can just imagine this. Probably a campfire of some sort, and they're relaxing, they're there, and one by one, individually, the disciples, they want clarification. Don't really understand, Jesus, exactly what you're talking about here. So they begin to question what's going on. When will all these things happen? What will be the sign of your coming in the end of the age? And Jesus answered. Listen, church, we've got to get a hold of this. We've got to understand this. Again, it's like we're going to turn on Fox News and we're going to start watching as we listen this morning. Jesus answered, watch out that no one deceives you. For many will come in my name, claiming I am the Messiah, and will deceive many. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Right now, around our planet, there are wars going on right now that we don't even know about. We know about the big ones, Russia and Ukraine. We know all that Israel is tied up in right now with Iran and all those different things and factors. And let me tell you something right now. I don't know if you follow any of those things. Pay attention and continue to pray and pay attention to Israel right now, because it's all going to come. So that's where the show is going to happen. Prophetically speaking right now, there's really not a whole lot else got to happen for Jesus to come back. Know that. And so every day, if you took time to look at some of the news from the Middle East, you would see things that would only hint and only point to what we read about in Scripture and what we've read from prophecy right now. Wars are happening everywhere. Again, wars that we don't even know about. But it's all around us right now. All around us right now. He said, such things must happen, but the end has come. Verse 7, I had to find out where I was at. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. The beginning of birth pains. Right now, there's a guy I occasionally follow. I haven't listened to him in a while, but I used to a lot. But he actually has been keeping track of the number of earthquakes that happen around our world on a daily basis. Now, we only hear about earthquakes if they're major and it strikes a major part of our, a big city or something. Is it newsworthy if people are killed? But do you realize right now there are hundreds upon hundreds of earthquakes that happen around our world every day that we don't know about? And it's increasing each year. How many happen? We don't recognize it. We don't realize it. Lots of things. Jesus said those things are going to happen. Birth pains are taking place. Famines are going on. We don't understand famine in our area so much. But you go to some countries in Africa. You go to other places right now, they understand famine. There are kids right now dying all across our world because they don't have anything to eat. Because the places in which they live, the weather isn't what it needs to be. They don't get the rain that they need. They don't have the soil that they need because of those factors, and they're dying and they can't grow food. And we don't fully understand that. But I'm telling you what, I believe there's going to come a time where we will understand that. Famines will happen. These are all birth pains. In verse 9. Then you will be handed over to be persecuted and put to death, and you will be hated by all nations because of me. And at that time, many will turn away from the faith and will betray and hate each other. And many false prophets will appear and deceive many people. Because in the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold. But the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. There's a lot happening there. I want to have, we don't truly understand what persecution is about in our country as Christians. We really don't. We've seen different things happen in our society and so forth that we, you go to work and somebody laughs at you because you went to church on Sunday morning. You think, oh, I'm getting persecuted because I'm a Christian. Folks, that's not, I guess in a sense it is, but we don't know true persecution. When I was a freshman at Johnson University, there was a young man, I forget his name right now. I didn't know him personally. He graduated in the spring of the year, the fall I started, so that would have been in the spring of '89. He graduated from Johnson. He was from Africa. He came to Johnson to obviously study to be a preacher, evangelist, because he wanted to go back to his home, wanted to go back to Africa to preach. And he went back, and I remember the Wednesday night chapel service my freshman year, and we'd only been back for maybe a month. And we're standing there, we just got through singing, and the speaker of the night was sitting on a stage, much like happens here, and they were standing in the back, but the president of the college walks out on stage and kind of interrupts the worship service that was going on. He had everybody sit down. President Dr. Eubanks stood before our body that day, and he announced that this young man who had just graduated had been murdered in the streets of his hometown because he was preaching the gospel of Christ. Now, for that, the student body of however many hundreds were there that night in that chapel service was destroyed. I didn't know him personally. But I remember looking around the big auditorium that night, and just students were broken because they knew this guy. They knew him well. And there's stories like that are happening every day around our world. Persecution, it's a real thing, church. It's a real thing. It's going to happen, and we're going to see it more and more. In verse 15, so when you see standing in the holy place the abomination that caused desolation, spoken through the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Now there's going to time it, so you understand, there's going to be an event that it's going to take place at the Temple Mount again. There's going to be somebody stand there. Probably the Antichrist that we read about in the Bible is going to stand there. When that happens, and they're going to declare, I'm going to do a study on a Wednesday night. We may do this Wednesday night because I wasn't prepared to go into what we're going to be studying. So we're going to continue this on Wednesday night in our Bible studies. I think it's very important. But there are things happening in our world right now, but there's going to come a time when there's going to be an Antichrist, and he's going to stand on the Temple Mount again and declare that he is God. And when we begin to see those things happening, we know the end is drawing near. Why do we know that? Because Jesus said so. Verse 17, let no one on the housetop go down to take anything out of the house. Let no one in the field go back to get their cloak. How dreadful it will be in those days for pregnant women and nursing mothers. Pray that your flight will not take place in winter or on Sabbath, for then there will be a great distress unequaled from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be equaled again. If those days had not been cut short, no one would survive. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened. And at that time, if anyone says to you, look, here is the Messiah, or there he is, do not believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. See, I have told you ahead of time. So if anyone tells you, there he is out in the wilderness, do not go out. Or here he is in the inner rooms, do not believe it. For as lightning that comes from the east is visible even in the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Wherever there is a carcass, there the vultures will gather. And immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. And then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then all the peoples of the earth will mourn when they see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And He will send His angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather His elect from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. Now learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its twigs get tender and its leaves come out, you know the summer is near. And even so, when you see all these things, you know that it is near, right at the door. And truly I tell you, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. Now let me tell you something, friends. I don't know what your eschatology is. I know that's a word that we don't use a lot today, but it means, are you pre-tribulation, mid-tribulation, post-tribulation? And again, those are big Christianese words that we use, and there's a lot to that, and I don't care where you land at and where you believe. It doesn't matter. I kind of have a place where I land at and where I firmly believe. But again, what I know is this. I know that Jesus is coming back. How do I know that? Because He said so right here. I know that things are going to get crazy and are crazy right now. And then we're going to see things happen that it's hard to even believe. Technology right now is so mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. That's going on right now. And we think, how are we going to see things that seem to be miracles that are different for us? Let me tell you something. AI can be a cool thing, but it's a very dangerous thing. Now, I'll talk about that more on Wednesday night. We'll get into some more detail. And I want to say this to all parents, and we got on the whole cell phone thing, a couple months back, and I had a few people say, man, you really hit me between the eyes. I hit myself because of what we allow our kids to do with their cell phones. I don't have my own on right now. But I'm just going to tell you, I kind of freaked out one night. This is back probably last fall. Because I've been doing some personal study on the whole AI and artificial intelligence is going on and different things. And I started, again, doing in study and started thinking, man, artificial intelligence, it could do some things that really can almost make someone look like a god. Again, I don't want to get into Wednesday night too much, but I mean, there's actually, they're developing basically robots that look like humans with this artificial intelligence that can literally talk to satellites in our space outside of our Earth, and things can happen. I mean, it's crazy. But I kind of got a little freaked out when I think it was Aiden was messing with his cell phone one night, and there was an app or something on there you could talk. You kind of had your own AI, and you could talk to him. It's like, man, this is dangerous stuff. Because who knows what our kids are being told by this artificial intelligence. Because AI doesn't matter if it lies or is telling the truth. There's a lot of things. And again, we'll get into that on Wednesday night. I encourage you to come back as we get into discussion about some of these things. There's a lot going to happen. There's a lot happening that we don't understand. We live in a bubble out here. We live in a... I was told that just this past week. I was told that, man, you're just... Are you just like... I didn't know how to take that. I didn't know if I should be offended or glad. You know how it is. We were staying at a water park resort, and sometimes if you get free tickets or money off on going to shows or something, just go listen to their pitch to buy, timeshare type thing or whatever. So that's where we're at. We got, a couple $100 off on some tickets to one of the shows. Dinner shows we were going to. So, we'll sit and listen to it and say no. At the end, we get our free stuff. But as we're sitting there and this guy, sales guy's talking, we hit it off. Our sales meeting was only supposed to be 2 hours long. It ended up being 4 hours long. Because he and I, he's as much talker as I am. So anyway, but he starts throwing some stuff out that I'm like, when it came to internet and stuff our kids are dealing with, and I'm like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. He was just like, do you just live in a bubble or what? You don't know about these things? And I was like, I guess. Again, I didn't know I should be offended or not. The man knew what he was talking about. I didn't. It's pretty scary stuff he was talking about. Now, he claimed to be a believer. You know, I always try to figure out where somebody stands with Jesus. He said he did. Said they were Baptists and things like that. But then he started cussing and everything else at the end. I was like, okay, all right. But anyway, but as I listened to him, and I thought, you know what? Maybe I am in a bubble. Sometimes that's a good thing, I guess. But yet I have to understand that there are things that are going to begin to happen. It's almost going to be unbelievable. But they're going to happen. They're going to happen. Man, there's so much more I was going to go today, but I'm going to have to cut it, and we'll finish it Wednesday night. We've all, think back to when you were 8, 9, 10 years old. Middle school. It's getting about that time of year when it's fun to do this. I grew up in the massive metropolis of Deputy, Indiana. Yeah. When I was a kid, our house where we lived at in town, when we moved out of the country into the big city of Deputy, we moved from Hardy Lake and into the big city. There was a lot of us kids, all the same age, and where we lived at was kind of like just our house was a place to come play wiffle ball, basketball, and all that. It just the way it was. And about this time of year, when it started getting warm and being outside late, we'd all gather and play that good old game, hide and seek. We still play hide and seek at our house with our kids. You know, we like to send them out to go hide and then never go find them. You know, that's always a fun thing. Go to bed and they're still, midnight, they're still hiding in their places, That's never happened too often. But we've all played that game. And if you're the one that's out hiding, you're doing your best to not be seen. But if you're the one that's got a countdown, you count down from 100 or whatever you decide is going to be the number, the one that's going to be doing the seeking is going to be. You get that countdown done. What do you say? And what do you yell? Ready or not? Here I come. Ready or not? How many of y'all been in that situation and you've not been ready? And panic sets in. And I have done this. I have if kids come, we've done this at youth camps and stuff, whenever the kids come out and I'm not ready, I would literally follow them around behind trees and stuff and watch them. But there's been times I've been ready and there's been times I've not been ready. But let me tell you something, church. God is saying today, ready or not, Jesus is coming back. Because He said so. Jesus does not lie. And He says it right here in red letters. I'm coming back. And everyone's going to know when it happens. There's going to come a day when every knee will bow and every tongue will confess. And I feel confident everybody in this room today is ready. And we had two this morning that made sure they're ready. But there's a lot that's not ready. And I want to tell you something, church. I would not want to be on the side of the fence when the eastern sky splits wide open and the trumpet sounds, however that's going to look, however that's going to sound. I just know when it happens, we're going to know. But I would hate to be on the side of the fence that is not ready. Just like those people that had been watching Noah build the boat for all those years and talking about rain. And when the rains came and the flood started happening, and when the door shut and they couldn't get in, so shall it will be when Jesus comes back. And we have a responsibility to ask that question, are you ready? It's going to come. And if you're sitting here this morning and anything I've said to you today has made you feel scared or at ill ease, then maybe you need to take a look in the mirror this morning in your relationship with Jesus. Because when I hear this stuff, when I read things like that and I turn on the news in the morning and I'm watching what's going on, and I'm like, man, it's getting close, it's getting close, it's getting close, it's getting close. Come Jesus, I'm ready for you to come. Because I want to come and see you. I want to see my mama and daddy. I want to see my aunts and uncles. I want to see my grandma and grandpa that I didn't hardly know when I was a kid. I am ready. Let's go. That's the way we should feel. It shouldn't be frightening. And so what I'm sharing this morning may be more as much for those that might be watching this week online. And I want to look at the camera and I want to ask, are you ready? If you're not, it's real simple to be ready. Just acknowledge who Jesus is. Acknowledge who He is. This morning we're going to stand and sing an invitation. If you're in this room this morning, you're going to have the opportunity to respond, and you can make a decision this morning. Say, I want to be ready. All you got to do is come and acknowledge who Jesus is. You want to make Him Lord of your life. Maybe you just want to say, hey, I'm all good. I'm living for Jesus, but I just want to dig in harder. I want to be a better witness. I just want to rededicate my life to Him and let Jesus know, God, I'm ready. I want to tell everybody. Now's a good time to do that. And I think honestly, every one of us in this room today, we need to this morning just hold our hands up and say, God, I'm here. I'm for the end time battle that we're in right now, because we are in a battle, church. You may not know it this morning, but you are a warrior. So as we walk out the doors today, we're going into the battlefield. Or maybe you just want to, we've had several visitors coming and hanging out with us for a while now, and maybe you want to place your membership here at First Marion. Now's the time to do that as we stand and sing our hymn invitation.